Okay, great, awesome. So we are still with core Python. We have not gone past that level. But one thing that I'm sure that we have passed is we have finished collection data types. We looked at strings, we moved from strings, we looked at lists, we moved from lists to sets, from sets to dictionaries. We've looked at all the collection data types. We talked about tuples too as well, but we'll talk about arrays in future when we are treating NumPy. So I think in our last class, right, we looked at sets. We looked at the applications, we looked at the specific functions that apply to sets. And then we talked about the union, the intersection. We talked about the mathematical power that comes with sets, all of that. We looked at it. And then we also looked at dictionaries. We talked about the key value pair system of dictionaries and how they work. We also went ahead to see how you can look through a dictionary, through the keys, you can identify the keys, you can identify the values and all of that. We looked at all of that, and that was the end of collection data types. So before we start what we have in mind today, is there any question? Are there any doubts? Are there any inputs, subtractions, divisions, multiplications, or anything that we need to look at before we jump into the topic of today? Please, the floor is open. Let's have a discussion. Don't freeze your questions or your words. Even if it's very tiny like that, please make sure you have it cleared before we move ahead. Dr. Kifa, I know you have a question. Can you just ask me now before you forget?
Yes, thank you, Prof. Actually, during the last class, I was not present, but I was able to listen to the recordings. Yeah, I had just small worries about on sets where you're talking about differences and difference updates like that. I was not really clear with what was discussed around it.
Okay, you were not clear about sets, differences, and different updates. Let me open that file, okay? Since I don't even me myself, I don't remember. But I'm going to go to that part of the file and then we solve it. Please, if you have another question about this file, you just ask now before I close it, okay? So that we don't go and come back. Where is differences now? Okay, this is where we were looking at difference. This is where we started. This is what you're talking about, Dr. Kifa.
Yes, so, yes.
We initially had two sets, right? S1 and S2. Now, the first thing is that when you run the S1.difference, it's looking for the difference between the first set and the second set, and it's going to return that difference. That means the values that are in S1 and not in S2, because S1 was first, S1.difference S2. You understand?
Yes.
So these are the values in S1 that are
Hello, Prof. I can't hear you again.
I'm saying that if I would have used S2.difference S1, I would have looked for the values that are in S2 and not in S1. That would have returned 8 and 10. You understand?
Yes, yes.
But now that I'm looking for the values that are in S1 and not in S2, then that's why I had 1, 3, and 5. And now, S1.difference update, you understand? Means that I'm changing or I'm updating S1 to the difference between S1 and S2. And what was the difference between S1 and S2? This was the difference. And so if I do update, that means I replace F1 with the difference between S1 and S2. And that's why F1 was changed to 1, 3, and 5.
Okay, okay.
You understand?
Yes.
Awesome. Any other worry before we jump into our topic for today?
Not for now.
Great. Madam Constance, you came late. I was already asking who had to remind me to record, but now you are just coming now and I forgot to record.
I've been coming in and out. My network is crazy today.
Oh, yeah. You should try empty orange. But
I'll
now that
try
I've
that.
got the record, I don't know what we are going to jump onto.
No, you cannot forget to record. When I came in, I saw that it was really being recorded.
So you think that won't take your assignment for you today?
I'm so sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. Okay, let's do something a little extra. Now today we are not talking about collection data types, of course. Do you people remember the lecture we had on functions? You remember the lecture we had on functions? I need somebody to talk to. Mr. Anthony, can I talk to you? Can you be my discussion partner tonight?
Okay, it's fine, Prof.
Okay, have you followed the lectures on functions and modules?
Yeah,
Have
you mean if I've gone through?
Yes, I know by then. I don't know if by then you had joined the session, but I think the recordings were there.
Okay, but of course I know functions and Python. I'm familiar with
Okay,
functions.
now let's have a discussion. In that class, we said one of the things we said which stood out about functions was the fact that you can reuse them. You create functions because you want to reuse them, right? For reusability. That's one of the things that
Yes.
stand out. But then now, there are situations whereby you need to use a function, but you don't explicitly need to ever reuse that function again. You understand? Because you're not asking me that if I have my function now and I think this function should only be used once, so why should I go through the function of using the def keyword and defining the function, passing arguments and parameters, and then coming down using them before I use that function? No, if you have a situation where you want to use a function, but you don't have to explicitly define a function, then there is an alternative to that. You can still define a function within your code, but it's not a function that you can reuse. And such functions are called Lambda functions. And as you look at it, it is an anonymous function. Anonymous, the people who learn English here, anonymous means no name, Abi?
Yes. No
Anonymous,
identity.
yeah, no identity. Yes, those are the kind of functions. And then, okay, but before we go into that, let's just look at what we did about functions. Okay, you remember, let's just remind ourselves. In the lecture where we were creating functions, right? We said for you to create a function, use the keyword def. That's you defining your function, the name of your function. I remember we did a function called add. And that function was taking two parameters, A, comma, B. And then after that now, what do? We say the function was returning the sum of what? A and B, right? It was returning the sum of A and B, right?
Yes.
So this was our add function. And if I want to use this function, I'll just go ahead and do add, and then I say 2, 5, and then I run this, it returns 7 automatically, right? Now, in this function, for me to use this function, I need to know the name of the function. And so the name of my function was add because I said your name should be add. And so for me to use it, I have to now call the name of the function, and then I pass my arguments, and then I get my result. Now, we are now saying that a Lambda function is no name function. So how then do you use it? That is why I started by saying that these functions are not meant to be reusable. You understand? Lambda functions are not meant for you to reuse them. So once you use, you want to implement, you cannot reuse them. So something stand out. The question now is, can I also now write this function? If I need a function like this within my logic, can I also create an add function like this as a Lambda function without actually defining the name? Yes, you can do that. So that is what we are going to be looking at today and seeing how to create Lambda functions or anonymous functions. And these are functions that you just use them for your logic, and you just use them once, and you don't have to reuse them again. You will not have the possibility to reuse them again because you can just use them once. So let's see. Let's talk a little bit about them. They are anonymous functions. I already explained that they are no-name. It is used when required. It is used when we require the function for short period of time and do not have to reuse it. Like I already explained, you use lambda functions when you don't intend to reuse the function, right? It can be used in higher order functions like functions that, so there are other functions that take parameters as functions. We'll see example of such functions, and then you'll see how you can use lambda functions within such functions. Then it can take any number of arguments, but only one expression. Oh, this is extremely important. Let me explain that. Let me explain this last point. Let me explain this last point. It's very important. It's something. Do you know that even within this lambda function, right? You know, within this lambda function, I can say print A times B. You know that, right? I can say print A times B, right?
Okay.
I can say print A times B, and then if I run this and then I run this, you see I have two outputs, right? Do you see that? Meaning that I've
Yes.
used multiplication and I've used addition in this function called add. You understand? I've used two operations there. But what we are saying is that lambda functions will not let you use two different operations in the same function. It's only going to be one kind of operation, multiply, within the same.
Prof, are you still there?
But
I don't know if it's my network.
the only
I'm not sure it's yours. It should be Prof's.
Okay. I foresee. I think he's having network challenge.
Yeah, he has gone off. The network today is crazy. I'm sure so many people are unable to attend today because of that network.
I'm telling you. I mean, I'm saving up money now to get a Starlink. I think that one will be much better. This Elon Musk.
It's not just funny.
I'm sorry. MTN is making a fool of me. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, we
I
can.
believe others can.
Awesome. So we were talking about lambda functions, and we were just emphasizing that I was talking about the last point here about, I was just saying more about lambda functions, and I was talking about this last point where I said it can take any number of arguments, but only one expression, meaning that I cannot use a lambda function and within the same lambda function, I'm multiplying and I'm dividing at the same time. So you understand? So if I'm using my lambda function, I'm only either adding or I'm multiplying or I'm dividing. I have to choose one, but I cannot do multiple expressions within the same lambda function. Before I go ahead, I need to confirm that it's clear or there are any additions or subtractions before I go and start creating lambda functions.
No, for me, I think it's clear. It's used to do sharp work, while the actual function is more robust, it's more robust. So that's what I understand.
Okay, now, so let's go ahead and create our first lambda function. Now I'm going to show you how to create a Lambda function. The question is, how do I create a Lambda function? So for you to create a Lambda function, this is not a choice. I'll keep telling you, you have to follow this method. It's not, you don't choose to say, I will do my own thing. No, this is the syntax. For you to create a Lambda function, you have to use the keyword a Lambda. Now you see it's a keyword now. It gives you, so let's create a Lambda function that takes the same thing like A and B over here, for example. So for us to do that, right, you say Lambda. You use this word Lambda explicitly. Now, the arguments that the function is going to take, what are the arguments? For example, Lambda is going to take A, comma B, right? Can you see that?
Mm.
And then
Yeah.
after you write your arguments, so after using the word Lambda, the next thing that comes are your arguments. After your arguments, you are going to use a expression. I cannot multiply and add at the same time. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I think you. I can hear you.
Okay. So once you write your column, the next thing is for you to write your expression. And we already concluded that Lambda functions cannot take more than one expression. Your expression has to be one kind of expression. And so in this Lambda function, I want to add A to B. So I'm going to do A plus B. You understand?
Yeah.
This is my Lambda function. And so if I want to test this function, I'm going to do this. I'm going to wrap this in brackets, and then I pass two parameters here. Let's say 2 and 5, for example, here. And then I'm going to run this, and it returns 7. Is this simple or not?
Mm.
I want you to take 5
Yeah,
seconds
let's
and look
see.
at it again.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it clear? It's simple. Use the keyword Lambda, pass your arguments, use a column, and then pass your expression. As
I don't
simple
know,
as that.
Prof. Can you?
Yes. Ask your question.
Oh, yeah, not really a question. Can you please like add a small documentation to it, like the steps? You know, I don't know. Yeah,
Sure.
like a documentation. First of all, use Lambda, then secondly, steps like that.
Yeah, so we say use the keyword Lambda. And then the next thing is pass your, you define your parameters, right? Parameters. Then after that, now use a column. I don't know how, is it how to spell it? Is it column or column or column? I don't know. Whichever one. English is not my friend.
COLUMN.
Is this one? Is this one?
Yes, I think yes. Column, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
use a
column.
Use a column.
And now you people are confused. Now,
It's colon.
which
Two
one is
dots.
correct?
Two
These
dots
two
is
dots.
colon.
How do you spell them?
COLON.
This one.
Okay, he was
Yes.
correct. Yeah, he was correct.
Okay, now.
Sorry.
Okay. Oh, after that, and then we say you pass your expression, right? Is that clear? These are the steps.
Okay.
As straightforward as that. And so if you want to test it now, you can just wrap it and then you test it. So this is how you create a Lambda function, okay? Now, You can now, because you know this syntax now, you understand this lambda function now, you can now begin to use it within different contexts. And that is the next thing we are going to be seeing, how to use lambda functions. Okay, now let's look at something else. Creating a lambda function, we have already solved that problem. Lambda functions with expressions having if else. Okay, now this is you still have to sit down again and listen to what I'm saying, right? Okay.
Yes.
Now let's create. Now let's do something. I'll do if else normal. And then I'll do lambda function with if else so that you understand. So I'm gonna say x1. Sorry. X1 is equals to, let's just use 5 for example, and x2 is equals to, let's just say 10. Okay, now, and so I'm going to say if x2 is greater than, right, x1, we already know this one. If x2 is greater than x1, print. Did I show you how to use a formatted string? Have I shown you people that?
I think it was in this class. Yes, I think so. Where you do the F.
Yes. Let me ask somebody like Madame Constance. Did you see where to use the formatted string, Madame Constance? Did I talk about that?
No, I don't think so.
No, Prof, you did not.
Okay, I'm not showing you guys how to use a formatted string.
No.
Let me. Okay. Just permit me. Let me just show you that now before we go ahead. Okay. 5 minutes. Okay. I'm just going to add some cells down. Let me show you how to use a formatted string. Okay. Let's see something. I want to see. Okay, I've already defined let me just use this one. Okay, let me just copy this one and paste it down here. I just want to use a formatted string. So I'm going to run this cell. I've defined a variable called x1. Let me just use all of them, for example. Let's see. X2 and x5. Okay, now let me see. I want to do something. I want to say, look at, I'm going to write and then explain it. Okay, print x2, comma, is greater than, comma, x1. Can you see this? Let me run this. See, you see, I created x2 and I say x2. You see, look at the syntax carefully, please. Because if you don't understand the syntax, you're going to not understand what I'm trying to explain. Look at, I write x2, comma, is greater than, as a string, x1. Now, if I write this like this, I'm going to copy this and put it like this. And instead of doing this, I'm going to come and then this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove this quote from here. And I'm going to remove this quote from here. And I'm going to wrap all of these things in quotes. See. I want to show you something so that you understand the concept of formatted string. Do you see what I have here? Now let me run this. If I run this, you see, I just get x2 is greater than x1. But when I run this, I get a different thing. Now, where do formatted strings come in really, really handy? Now, I can still do this and I do it with formatted strings, see, and it will come out like that above. So for me to do that, what I'm going to do is I'll put an F in front here and have this in curly brackets and then please confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
I can hear you.
Okay, great.
Yes,
So I'm going to wrap. I'm going to wrap this inside curly brackets, and if I run this, I get the same results like above, right? So I get the same results I got above, right? But everything is within the string. So it's called a formatted string. Now, when do you use this thing? When do you use a formatted string? If you want to print a variable that you have already defined within a string, like assuming that this thing was within this sentence, like somewhere inside here, because at the beginning it's easy to print. I'll put this thing, put a comma, write my string as a string, and then put a comma, and then I put it. But then what if it were inside here, in between here? That means you want me to say, if you were in between, for example, let me say, I want to say print, okay, for example, print okay, let me put this, I'll say the number x2 is divisible, can divide, no, the number x1, I don't think it's x2. No, it's x2. And the problem is English here, or not coding. The number x2 is divisible by x1. You understand? Now, if at the beginning of a sentence, it will be easy for me to just put x2, comma, is divisible, but within a sentence like this, now I want to use this x2, but it will be difficult for me to do it. Why? Because that means I'll have to write this one within quotes, put a comma, write this one, then put a comma again, then write all of this again within quotes again, put a comma. And I mean, before I write this one, it becomes too tedious and expensive, and not expensive. Yeah, it's too tedious. So how do I fix this? So if I run this, it just writes this nonsense out. But if I want to fix this, this is what I can do. I can do it like this. I paste it here, and all I need to do is come here, and then I put an F here. Then I wrap this x2 within curly brackets like this. And then if I like, I can wrap x1 within curly bracket. I can wrap s1 within curly bracket, or I just do this. I put a comma here and put x1 outside. It's possible because it's at the end. So, and if I run this now, you see 10 is divisible by 5. You understand what I'm saying? So this thing is called a formatted string. You'll see me use this a couple of times to solve some logical problems. So if you see me doing this, please don't tell me, Prof, I don't understand what you are doing. Okay, now that I've explained formatted strings, let's come back. Let's come back to so I wanted to print this, so I wanted to use a formatted string. So I wanted to use this one. Let's see. So I wanted to use this one here. So so I'm saying if x1 is greater than if x2 is greater than I print f2 is greater than x1, else. So I'm going to say else, right? And then I'm just going to come down, and then I copy, and then I think if I paste this again, I just have to change it. x1 is greater than x2. So now, right? So I'm going to run this, and then I get 10 is greater than 5. So this is my normal if else. So I'm going to copy this. Wait, let me copy it. And then I want to do it down here. This is the normal if else that you and I know now. So let me do it down here. This is the normal if else that you and I know. This is the one we already know. But then how do you, if you want to do this within a Lambda function, how do you do it? So now let me come up here and show you. So, okay, now a Lambda function, we have to use a keyword Lambda. Explicitly, we know that. And then we pass our parameters x1, x2, you understand? And then we pass our expression now. So we have to explicitly write the column, and then we say, look at what I'm going to do. I'm going to say if Are you seeing? If x1 greater than x2. Are you seeing what I'm writing? I want you to pay attention. I'm going to write if x1 greater than x2. Then look at where I'm going to print. And then I'm going to print this here. Look at where I return my output. I return my output behind the if function. Behind the if. So I'm going to put it here instead. Oh, I didn't copy everything because, wait. I was supposed to copy all of this, like which one? No, I was even supposed to return all of this. Why am I not even returning all of this? I'm supposed to return all of this, right? So look at where I'm returning my output. My output is behind the if function. This is my expression. And then the else is going to be in front. Right? I mean, if I want to follow this same order, I'll put, so that I don't get you guys confused. Let me put x2 greater than x1. The same way it's over there. So and then I'll have to print x2 greater than x1. This is when it's true. And then the else part is going to come after. And then the else part is going to come after my expression, right? And if I want to test this, I wrap all of these. And then I can try 5 and 10. Let me confirm the syntax with my examples. Oh, the weighted number.
Because there's always traffic.
So,
I get to call when I barely reach that.
so now once
there's a lot of traffic.
Okay, let me just.
so now can you see the syntax? So let's execute this and see. Oh, there is a problem. Print. Why is my print after if
I think
expression?
lambda is x2, x2. I don't think it's supposed to be like that. After lambda, you have x2, x2.
Oh, so I'm supposed to have x1, x2. Let me try this again. But it's telling me print is, it said expect else after. Let me swap these numbers and see. N and input 5 here. Maybe that's the reason why they still telling me the expect else after if function. Yeah, of course. Well, do they have to explicitly put? Oh, yeah. Sorry, I forgot to put print, then else. Sorry. I'm going to do else here because I did not put this else, this one like this. That's why it was not working. I already did if and then the else. This is it. If it were not correct, I'll not get that. So why is it telling me 5 is greater than?
No, I'm saying that in
Okay,
what you have just written, you have added it's okay now.
Yeah, so I'm going to have 10 here. So I swapped the values. That's why it was not getting. I'm still looking at.
That's supposed to be 10 and
explicitly
5.
it takes x1, 10 and 5, not 5 and 10.
Yes.
10 and 5, because this it uses positional argument. See, by default, it's going to use x1 as what? 10, right? And then it's going to use x2 as what? 5. So we are saying that if x1 is greater than x2, then it should print, if x1 is greater than x2, right? It should print x2 greater than x1, else. So let's see, if 10 is greater than 5, it's going to say 5 is greater than 10. So I don't want that. I want x1 greater than x2. Else, it should print x2 greater than what? x1. So that's what we want. So now we are saying, look at the lambda function. Now we want to express if else. So now look at it. The things I want you to take home, which are very important, are the positions of if else, so that we do not make a mistake. It's not about whether which one is. Let's start again, and then we'll look at the function as the way I've written it. So I started with my keyword lambda. I passed my arguments x1 and x2, and then I say, and wait, don't forget about this one. Forget about this one first. Let's jump and come here. I write my expression. If x1 is greater than x2, then this is my output if this is true. I put it behind the if. So it's going to say print x1 is greater than x2. That's if this is true. If x1 is greater than x2, then you print x1 is greater than x2. But if that is not true, that is the else function, else part, we're going to write else. And then we print, because otherwise x2 is greater than x1. And then we can now test it out. And then once we run that, let's see, it says 10 is greater than 5. Now, I want you to confirm that you understood what I mean. Let me repeat. The take home is that your expression, your if, and your else, your expressions, the position, the way you put the positions. What comes, because you cannot, one thing I have to emphasize is that you cannot write lambda functions in 2 lines. You see the way we wrote the if else here was in multiple lines, right? Can you see that? But you cannot,
Yes.
lambda functions by default are written in 1 line. 1 line, straight like that. And so once you write your expression, the output that will be returned if the lambda and what the else part should be after the if function. I want you to confirm that it is clear before I move ahead. Is it clear? Madam Constant, why are you looking at me like that now? What's the problem?
Prof.
Yes.
Yeah, Prof. Boris, I wish to find out if this lambda function can only accommodate a maximum of 2 expressions. So what if in a case whereby we had x1 maybe up to x3, is it possible to include these expressions so that it prints, like if we're saying that 10 is greater than, that the function should print x1 greater than x2 if 10 is greater than 5. What if in a situation maybe we had 3 numbers, we had 5, we had 10, we had maybe a number like 15. So in that situation, how can we put in the expressions in the lambda function so that it obeys the instruction of printing each number that is specified, or each expression that is specified?
You are going to use if, elif, and then else. I'm here to show you how to use if, elif, and else. This was just for if else. So if you have more than 3 parameters, for example, that you want to do multiple expressions and you want them to return it based on your evaluation, you are going to use if, elif, just like if we have another third, if we had a third number here, let's say x3, right? x3, right? Is equal elif x3, elif x3 greater than x2, right? Elif x3 greater than x2, then we print elif greater than x3, right? Should you know that? So we print x3 is greater than x2. So this, in this case, this is how we are going to write it. Is that correct? We already know this one. But then now how would you put the same thing within a lambda function? You understand? Are you getting me? I hope it's in line with your question.
Yes, Prof.
So let's see an example of using elif. I think I had an example here using elif, right? Now, this is it. Let me just I'll just copy this one and explain it so that I avoid typing. Now look at my function. So we already know this one. This is where I pass my parameters x1, x2, and x3. So I'm saying if x1 is greater than x2, return f1, x1, right? Or I can say return, instead of putting this, I can say print this. So here I can replace this with this. I'm just running away from text, from typing. So if x1 is greater than x2, if x1 is greater than x2 and x1 is greater than x3, print this. Print x1 is greater than x2. Maybe say and x3, right? Yeah, that'll make sense. That's if x1 is greater than x2 and x1 is greater than x3. Else, now let's look at the else part. So now we are going to write else, and within the same else, we are going to evaluate another if and else. That's how you do elif. So within the same else, so within this else function, we are going to evaluate an if, and it's going to be in the same light. So else, you now you write your brackets, and then you say if x2 is greater than x3, then we can say print. We can use this one here. We can use this one. So here we can say print x2 is greater than x3. And then the else of this one will be x2 is greater than x3 because I'm using an. So I will use an. So I'll use x1, right? So now the else of this part now will be what we'll say, will be the one that will say, let's just replace this with Control V. Print else the last part will be x3 is greater than x1 and let me do and then I put x2. And so I'm going to test two numbers here. Please, I hope it's clear. Before I execute this thing, I want you to confirm that you understand what I'm saying. This is very simple. If you understood the syntax from over here, where is that if else? If you understood the syntax with if and else, then this becomes very simple for you to understand, because the first part is the expression if this is greater than this. So if this is greater than this, what the output that it will return, if it is true, then if it is false, is after the if statement, which is going to be the else part. And in the else part now, so if you are using if else and then elif, if you are using if elif and then else, then this is what is happening. Within the else function, you are going to evaluate another if again, just like this. So this is the first expression. These are the expressions. And then if that is true, we return this. But if that is false, then we have an else. And then within the else, we have to do another evaluation again. That's why you have brackets here, closing that. And within the else, we do another evaluation again. And this is the evaluation. And this evaluation again returns the true part of this evaluation behind. And then the false part at the end. So that's it. And so once we execute this, oh, something is incorrect. It says syntax is, oh, I typed and somewhere. Something. And Now this one where x greater than that, and it's trying to tell me x1. So it's looking at this, and here, let me see why. Let me see formatted string f1, x2. So if you mark this bracket, it's marked by that one. Then there is this other one here. Wait, where is this one marked? Okay.
You have two arguments in the Lambda function.
Something is not correct. This is it, x1 and x2 and x3. Yeah, this is an evaluation print. So let me just see. Wait, let's just write it out in simple terms, okay? Let's just write it out. And instead of printing, so let's say we have lambda, right? We have x1, x2, x1, comma, x2, comma, x3, right? So we put our column as we agree it, and then we write our expression. Say if x1 is greater x1 is greater than x3, right?
Okay.
And then that is it. That's else, right? And so else, we put our bracket to evaluate for else. And then within our brackets again, we do if x2 x2 is greater than x1, and so what Sorry, I had to switch to another network because MTN is not giving me a good experience. So we are trying to see why this thing returned only this. Can you hear me?
I can
Yes.
hear you.
Am I audible?
Yes, you
Okay,
are.
sorry.
Yes,
I apologize for that. It's just we're trying to troubleshoot this our expression. So let's look at it. So if this one is greater than this one and this one, we return this one, right? Else we return x2 if x2 is greater than x1 and x2 is greater than x3, else we return x2, right? So we run this. Why is it not printing the? It was supposed to return. Oh yeah, that's why it did not work, because I did not wrap this one like this. Okay, now. So if I run this now, it returns 780, which is what we expected, right? Is that clear? So this one was not working because incomplete input. I don't know where I made a mistake, because there were a lot of print statements, so I'm definitely sure that I messed up something somewhere. So now this is the concept of if else works, right? It's the same concept. You just don't, you need to know that you write your expression, the output that will be that you want it to return if the condition is true should be behind, and the condition that should be for should be in front after your else. And then if you want to do elif, you evaluate your else within the else, the if else again within the first else. That's what we are saying. So you can do as many elifs as you want. For example, elif, after this else, instead of returning S3, I'll open another bracket and do another if else evaluation again. Is that clear? Nobody is saying anything, and no one is asking any question. Everyone is just quiet.
Hello.
Are you people
Please,
giving up on me?
please, I did not get that if the multiple is if else when you have three variables.
I'm going to take it for the last time.
Okay.
So let's go again. I go again, I do my lambda function. By default, lambda. My
Okay.
variables are A, B,
B, C.
and C, right?
Okay.
I pass my column, which is what I want. Now I write my expression. So if A is greater than B, and A is greater than, just listen to the English, it will even make sense to you, and A is greater than C, then I want to return A. I want my output to be A, sorry. I want my output to be A. But if this is not true, that's the else part now. But if this is not true, I will not have to explain this one. You already know what I'm doing here. But if this is not true, then that is the else part. Else, if this is not true, then what should happen? That's the next part. I say if, else, if B is greater than A and B is greater than C, then I want you to return B. And if all of this is still false again, else, then you return C. Right? And I want to test this out. I wrap all of this in brackets again. And I can just pass any numbers, maybe these three numbers again. And just pass them. And once I run this, I get 780. Is it clear now?
It's clear now.
Yeah, it's clear.
It's very straightforward. There's nothing there. It's just about positioning. You need to understand where your true should come and where your false should come. And like I said, the true should come behind your expression, before your expression, and the false should come after your expression. That's point final. You don't need to even confuse anything. It's just about the positioning. Exactly. And you will not do elif like we did here. You will not come and write elif like this. No, you have to write else and then put if in bracket of else. Is that clear?
Okay. Yes, please. What can you
This is what else if means. I think I lost you. My internet is just flipping. I lost you. Can you ask your question?
Yes, for a lambda function, it's well understood now. And I just wanted you to do the same thing with the other function, the if, elif, and else.
This one above.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to print this. I think I create, okay. So I'm going to create S1 and X2, X3. X3 equals to 15. And so I'm going to say if X1 is greater than X2, if X1 is greater than X2, print X1 is greater than X2. Else, print else. Now this is else. Now I'm evaluating else, so I want to do elif here. Elif, right? Elif now if X2 is greater than X1 and and X2 is greater than X3. Then I want to do something here. And X1 greater than X3, right? And then print X2 greater than X2 is greater than, so I want to add an and here. So print X2 greater than this and X3. X2 greater than X1 and X3. So, and then last part will be the else, which is the lender of last resort, which definitely, if all of these are false, then obviously X3 is greater than all of them. Yeah. So we are printing F3 is greater than X1
X2
and X2. So here I have X3. Okay, so this is it. Then if I run this, I hope there is a syntax error here.
I think you should indent the elif.
Wait, after that, after the elif, do you need to? Let me see.
I have my results already.
Okay.
I brought it down.
Then what was the problem?
It was because I put a column here. You remember there was an else here, so I just came when I came and converted that L to elif. I did not remove that column in front.
Okay.
That's why.
All right. It's okay. Thank you.
Any wahala? Give me a minute. Why are you
Hello, Prof.
Hello, Prof. Hello.
Yeah, perhaps network.
Okay. Okay. I thought I've gone out. No, today's network. Oh,
Okay, are you there? Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, yes.
Have you digested all of this? Is it clear now? Can I go ahead?
Yes.
Okay, Prof. Yeah.
Yes, sir. You have a
Yes, sir.
question?
I don't know if this is early or maybe. Yes, you can hear me, right?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
I don't know if this is early or probably you must have taught it before. I don't know if you've shown us talking about position arguments. I don't know if you've shown us about this argument, like position argument, keyword arguments, arbitrary arguments. So I don't know if you've shown us that, or maybe you still show us later. I just remember it's
Yes,
because
I've
of.
done that in our course, in our session, in our function session. Go to our function session. I've treated all of that there. They understand. I think everyone here should understand what I mean by position. I explicitly explained that there when we were creating functions. You know, when I did this thing over here, right? I explicitly explained to you what this in terms of positions and everything. I explained that. So yes, that has been touched in
Okay, okay, okay,
our session on functions.
okay.
So let's look at something slightly different. You notice this statement that I used here, that uh it is used when we require the functionality for short period. No, not this one. It can be used in higher order functions, like you can use lambda within other functions. Let's look at an example. Lambda function within other functions. Let me do this with let me see the example that I have here. I have a list sort based on length. So okay, yeah. So let me just run this. So I want to create a list, right? This is my list.
Sorry, Prof.
This is
Before you
my
proceed, so I don't
list.
bring us back.
Oh yeah.
I have a question. A question.
Yes,
You
ask.
said that it cannot be reused. What do you mean by it cannot be reused? This because I want to know the definition of reuse. Because if you assign a lambda function to a variable, you can call it on in other instances. So please, could you enlighten me on that?
When you say assign,
The lambda function we created in the above instances is a tuple. Is a tuple object. You could assign it to any variable, and you can
I cannot come
call
back
that
and call this
variable.
function.
Yes,
Pardon?
it's the one
But I
in
cannot come down
26.
here and call this function and then I pass parameters to it and test it out. Are you there? Oh, am I the one who is gone? Oh, you are the one who is gone. Best man, are you there? Can some other person hear me
Perhaps
I'm
aside
with you.
best
I'm
man?
with you, Prof. I didn't get you.
Oh, okay. I was using this add
You're
function
breaking.
over here to differentiate between this add function and the lambda function. You see here, I've defined my function and I gave it a name, right? I call my function add. You understand?
Yes.
And so with this
Yes.
name, I can just call my function and then I pass any argument to it and then I use it. You understand? But first thing is that a
Okay.
Lambda function is anonymous. It does not have a name. You understand? Give it a name. So how then
Okay.
can we call something that does not have a name? And if you notice the way we are
You
defining
can
our Lambda functions, we did not actually give it a name like the art that
you
we
can
gave
give it a
above.
name.
So we just
I
use
don't
it
know
within an
if I,
expression directly. How do you do that? You are saying I should
I just
assign this to a
try
variable. Even if I
assign
assign this to a variable, how do I call it?
that in I- to a name variable. I,
Okay, this is my Lambda function. Let me assign my Lambda function to any variable without testing it out. Let me call the variable.
so
Let me just call the variable. Bestman, can you hear me? Are we together? Can some other person confirm if they can hear me? Because I know I'm having network
Yeah, I'm
issues.
getting you.
I can
Me, I
hear
can,
you,
I
Prof.
can
I
hear you.
can get you.
Yes, I wanted to understand Bestman's question. I don't know if he's still on call or he's also battling with network somewhere. I think he also has network issues because I cannot see him on the call again. He has surely been kicked out. So we are hoping that when he comes back, he's going to ask his question. But let's continue while we wait when he gets back. Okay, so I just created a list here while we are waiting for Bestman, right? I created a list here. And I wanted to show you how to use a Lambda function within another function. So this is the list that I created. And then now my task is that I want to sort now if I just go ahead and do sorted what right, and I
I'm
run
sorry,
this,
the network took me out.
it's gonna do. Oh, sorry about that. Sorry about that. Are you back now?
I'm back, sir.
Bestman, can you hear me? Okay. Was your question, you were trying to say I should assign the Lambda function to a
Yes,
variable.
I
Is
can
this
hear
what
you.
you were talking about? Yes, you were trying to tell me to assign the Lambda function to a variable,
Yes.
like something like this.
I was saying if you write lambda
And
as the lambda function as a tuple in this instance, wrap it as a tuple, you can assign it to a variable.
what you're saying is that, wait,
So I don't know if you
my
can hear me.
point is reusing the Lambda function. Will it help me reuse the Lambda function? I hope that's what we are trying to address. It's not about the parameters that it accepts, because it can accept any kind of parameter,
Yes, so
whether
we
it's a
use it.
tuple or a list or whatever. Okay, so you want me to pass these parameters as a tuple?
No,
That's what
I
you're
want you
saying.
to
So I'm
use
going to
it
copy this.
to be able to reuse it. No, don't pass the
How do you
parameter. As
want
in
me
the
to
whole
pass it?
function lambda. Put a bracket at the beginning and at the end. At the beginning and
Okay,
the
like
end.
this.
A bracket, beginning and the end. Yes, at the beginning and at the end. And at the end.
Yes, that's it.
Haven't done that. You can write
Yeah,
X
I've
at
done
the beginning. Write
that.
X. That's why X10. X10 at the beginning. Write X10 at the beginning.
X10, for example. And then am I
Yeah,
going
for
to assign this
example,
to
a
X10?
variable X10 equal to assign it.
That's what I've done.
Then you can, yes, you cannot call that X10 in any cell and just give it 3 arguments. You will use the call the function you've already defined.
Okay, let's see.
If you run
So
it,
I'm
if you
going to
run
call
that cell,
X10 down here. Yes, I've executed that already. So if I call X10 down here and see, and then
X10,
I pass I pass this. Let me just pass this, right?
Arguments. Give it any.
Yeah. Then I wrote, yeah, that works. That works.
Yeah.
That works perfect.
And also, I wanted to highlight that the
Well,
Lambda
that's
function,
brilliant.
if it's too
That works
long, if
directly.
it's too lengthy, you could break it by calling a backslash, take the Python to the next line. If you break it to the
Yeah, use an
not a
escape
forward slash, a
character.
can
Use an
split
escape character. Like this. Is it this one or this
it into
one?
multiple lines.
Yeah, something like this. Yeah, that's also very possible. That's also very possible. Yeah,
Yes, like that.
that's brilliant, this man. I hope everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, Dr. Kifa, is it going?
Please, I did not get what Beckman was trying to explain. Please, if you can just explain that very well. My network was tripping.
So Bestman was trying to say that if you define a Lambda function, because the initial thing we said, a Lambda function is not the kind of function that you can call because it doesn't have a name. And then he's now telling us how to give a name to a Lambda function. You understand?
Okay.
And we have already defined our Lambda function here. And what he's saying is that we can give that Lambda function a name by just assigning the whole Lambda function as a tuple to a variable, maybe extend, for example. And once you call extend down here, you can run it. Right? That's the first thing he was explaining. And then I was telling you that you can write the Lambda function on a straight line. You don't have to, on one line, you don't have to write it on multiple lines. And then again, he was adding how you can actually convert this Lambda function into multiple lines by just using an escape word. For example, you can escape it with a backslash like this, and then you go to a new line. This is an escape character in Python. It means ignore. And then you go to a new line, and then because if you go to a new line, if you run this, it doesn't give you an error, right? And if I come back, then I run this again, I get the same value. Is that clear? Does it make sense?
Okay.
Dr.
Okay.
I hope
Yeah,
that
it
your
makes sense.
question
It
is
makes
answered.
sense. Yes.
Yeah, great. So now let's see how we can use this. Let's see how we can use this. Let's see how we can use this within it. So now, if you come here and then we wanted to sort, I was trying to use this here, just an example. I don't know if this is a good example. So if I come here and if I do sorted, if I want to sort this thing, if I do sorted of L and then I run this, I get this. And then if I do sorted again and I do open, sorry, if I open this and I do shift tab, was it sort or sorted? It shouldn't work for sort because sort is not a function, right? Sort will not sorted the items. No, I'm looking at what I used here. I was trying to evaluate something here. I'm looking at they say taxes collect a string from a user and print the first three frequent words. Okay. Okay. So I was not even. So now look at this thing like this. Let's assume that this is the list you collected from the user. So so if you want to print the three most frequent words, right? Let's look at what we should have. So if I look at this thing that I tested here, what I was trying to look for. So I'm looking sorted z dot items. Why am I using z dot items here when I was not using when I was not using when I was not using a when I was not using anything. When I was not using this thing, a dictionary. So now let's see. Can we write a function that explicitly takes out the first three elements in this? Let's say L is equals to, let me just copy this. Let me copy this, okay? X. And I say L is equals to input. Then I say enter your list, right? And then if I run this, and then this is, I'm collecting my L, and then, so if I run this, it asks for my list. If I put this, and then I run this, and I ask for L, okay. So let me do this as a list. I'm gonna take this as a list, and then I do this, and then I pass this, and I run this, and I ask for L. Oh shit. Undo. Anyways, let me just run this like this. Because if I had to do this, I'll have to loop through this element, which I don't want to loop right now. So let me just run this like this. And then I run this again, and I get, let's assume this is a list that we get, and we want to sort each word here. Want to sort each word here based on the first three characters of the each word here, like, right? So we are sorting based on the first three characters. So now, how do you, so because we can just go ahead and just say sorted, and then we use the sorted function, right? And then we say we said all, then we run this, and it's going to sort based on data science, full stack, Java, Python. But but then that's not what we want to sort based on. We want to sort based on the first three. I think that is the task, right? If I'm not mistaken, the task was collect a string from a user and print the first three frequent words. The first three frequent word. Okay, so we are printing the first three frequent words. So let's see. Normally, if we want to print the first three frequent words, I'm gonna have data. This is not going to be a good idea. Why did I first of all pick this as an example? Let me try the map function and see what that serve. You pass a function. I like this one. Let's use this one with the map, right? So let's use this one with the map function, okay? So let me so I'm going to change the example we are going to be solving here because it doesn't make sense to my head. I don't even know how I created that. So let's use this with the map function. Okay, now let's see. To do this with the map function, let's say let's have a list, for example, right? Let's have a list and we say 2, 4, 6, 8, for example, right? Let's say 2, 4, 6, 8, for example, and then we run this. Now, let's say we want to let's have another function. Let's have another function. Let's say, can we say another list? L1 and L2, for example. I'm just thinking of a way that we can use this with map. Oh, okay. Let me just think of a way. Maybe can I have another list here, a list of names, for example? Maybe can I just have something like Peter? I'm just thinking of a good example. Paul. I'm just thinking of a good example that can work here. Let's say Mary and then maybe James. How many elements are there over there? 4. Okay, let's say maybe James, for example. Okay, let's try this out. Okay. So now there's something I can do. I can map this thing as a dictionary and I can do zip. Can I zip them? There are multiple functions I'm using. I'm just trying to see the one that will give me a very good this one takes an iterable. Zip does not take a function, but I think map is the one that takes a function. So I can do this. Okay. Okay, now let me see. Maybe I might not need this one. I might not need this one. So let me just keep this one like that. I might need just S1. Okay, now, if I want to square each of these numbers, right? If I want to square each of these numbers, what I can do is that I will do for I in L1, right? Print, I can return print what? I, or say multiply them by 2, for example. I can just say I times 2, for example. Times 2, not possibly squared. And then when I run this, I get this. Okay. Another thing I can do is that I can do map, right? Now, map expects that if I do shift tab C, map expects that I pass a function here and then I pass an iterable, right? That means this function is supposed to perform a task on an iterable, right? And so I can explicitly define a function, right? So I'm going to add a cell over here. So let me add a cell and I create a function called, let me say def, and my function is going to be called mul. Let's say it's a multiplication table, we're just multiplying, right? And then this function is going to take anything. Let me just say an input, for example, right? An input can be anything. And so my mul can so now what is going to happen is that mul is going to do, now I can take this thing, I put it within my input function. Now, so instead of printing this, I can return this, right? I can return this. So for I in not L1, so I'll just have to say for I in input, right? So you can return I times 2. And then if I run this, right? And then I come down here and I say, and I put more here. Look at what is going to happen. And I put more here and I put L here, right? I can now go ahead and I run this. And can I print this? Then can I retain this as a list? Yeah. I can return this as a list. And then I run this. Oh, shoot. Object is not iterable. Which one object is not iterable? This is a list. But what about if I print it? Let me see. I want to use that function within it's still not returning me what I want. Let me just call this X. Let me not use input for I in X. X can be anything. I don't want to tie X to a list. So let me just do for I in X. If you run that, it still works, but it still doesn't return my output like I expect. I want to return this. That's why I am not. Okay, let me see. Let me assign this x is equals to, let me assign this to this. No, not x. Let me say x4, for example, is equals to this, and I return x4 again, and then I see. Still doesn't give me. How do I fix this? Wait. Map returns, takes a function as an input self, then it takes a function and then an iterable, and then what is the output of a math function? Makes an iteration that computes the function using arguments from each of the iterable, stops when the shortest iterable is executed type. This. I'm trying to see how this works, and I'm not getting it's working well, but it's not giving me the expected output. That's why I have a function, it takes a function, and it takes an iterable. Of course, I have a function. Okay. Let me do this. Okay, let me do this. Let me do sum, and then I run this. It still works, but it's not printing me the output. How does this work? Map and map. Let me say map function. Something is missing somewhere in Python. Let me get this. Okay, I've even looked at this before. Give me a minute, let me trace my steps and understand what. Okay, let me see. Map function and iterable. Okay. Yeah, it takes a function and iterable. So returns return. So def addition n, return n plus that. So we double, so you're going to take so number equals to this. So result is equals to map addition, of course, and then numbers, and then print result as a list up here. They are printing result as a list. So what if I'm printing more and I'm printing an explicit conversion of these as a list? Let me see this now like this. If I run this, oh, again, object not iterable. Which object is not iterable now? Can someone tell me why this? Let me figure it out. So if I run this, okay. So let me run this. And then I do more, and then I pass L1 in. Then, oh, maybe it was because I called it L1 and I was returning this one is returning only one value because I was not holding the output. This is giving let me see a good example of using Lambda with another function. Any other function can work. Let me see a good example. Oh, no. Network will not also let me do what I want to do. Let me try this out here. Lambda with other functions.
So, Prof,
Let me
what is
see an
X?
example.
What is X? What is X holding?
Just give me a minute. Let me come to that. Let me open this and check it out. The network is not even permitting me load any work page. Oh, I'm here. I don't know why this is not even returning the expected output. So X is going to be any input. It can be anything. And so, right. X is going to be any input, right? I'm just wondering why map. Yeah, it's telling me that that thing is not an iterable.
So, Prof, what is X holding?
X is an input, is anything. This is a function, of course. X is a parameter to this function. It can be anything, right? It can be anything. It must not hold anything.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a
Okay.
parameter to a function. I just want, it's evaluating the thing, but it's not returning an input. I don't know why it's not printing the output, right? It's printing the output, but it's not giving
Because
me the expected results. Map object, it returns an object. I just want to see a good example, def function and returns a blah, 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 blah. Want to see a use case. These guys are not showing me any use case. Did this one run? Use case of lambda functions and other functions. I want that. That's just what I want. Just want to see a good use case. Shit. The network will not even let me run this thing.
so, Prof, if you go to Google, I don't know if you can hear me, sir.
Let me see. I can hear you. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, if you go to Google and type map Python, so there's this write-up, this blog post by programmers. So you will see it. The first one is by W3 Schools. Then after that, you see by programmers. There's a good example there. Maybe you can just check it out and see if you
Yeah, that's
get what you want.
let me run that and see. I want to see the default output of a map function, whether it's a list.
You see by programming.
Sorry, my internet today is really terrible. It keeps knocking me out and bringing me back at you. So this is the one by W3 School, right?
So check the
I
one
don't
by
know. I'm finding
programmers,
it
not
so
W.
difficult to. By programmist.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Go down.
this
Go down.
one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Programmers. Yes.
Okay, let me takes a number, and you normally can use my, and then you return number times number, of course, that returns the square of a number, and then you choose. I just take the number directly, right? A list. Oh, that's because I was looking through the other one. Now I understand why. What if I
Yes, yes, first of the loop.
Yeah, it's because of the loop. So it's, if I print this thing as a list, I expect to get, yeah, it gives me, oh, it's returning the same thing multiple times. Because it's using the return function, okay. So I can do x times 2. So it takes anything, and if I come here and run it, okay, it works now for all the variables. Okay, great. Thank you for that. My problem resolved. I can now
You're welcome.
conveniently explain my concept now with peace. Okay, now we were talking about how you can use map with some other functions. For example, is map. If I open this and I do shift tab for map, you see that most of the times what you do is that you just go ahead and then use a lambda function here in the place of this function, and then defining a function explicitly. So let's see how we can do that, but let's try to define our own function and then let's see how that works. So this is what is going to happen. So I'm going to run this. So let's see. So let's have a list like this. Okay, this is my list. So I'm creating a list, right? I want to multiply each value in this list by 2. And normally for you to do that, right? Normally for you to do that, all we need to know is that there's no way if you want to do that, you have to explicitly look through this list. And let's see, let me do L1 times 2, for example. And then I return this. You see, it has multiplied this list by 2, not multiply. So therefore means that if you want to multiply each element in this list by 2, you have to explicitly look through this list and then multiply the elements by 2. Map is another function. And map will just multiply each element in this list by 2, but not looping without you actually writing a loop. But the thing is that map also expects a function to do the job. And so now let's explicitly define it. So let's explicitly define a function, and this function is going to. Madam Vandalin, can you please mute yourself? I'm trying to mute you from here and it's not working. Madam Vandalin, please mute yourself. Madam Vandalin, please mute yourself. To mute you from here. I don't know why it's not working. I'm not sure I'm the host again. Okay, let's go ahead.
She's close to her.
I'm sure it's because as I keep going in and out, I'm not the host again. So I'm sure a different person is the host. So
Okay.
that's why I'm trying to mute her and it's not working. Let's continue. It's fine. So what I was saying is that if you want to multiply each of these elements by 2, you might want to loop. Okay, now we can use map to do that, but map takes another function. So let's define a function that takes an input and multiplies it by 2. So we can just define a function, and then we call that function multiply, and that's the name of our function. And that function can take any parameter a, and that parameter now, what is going to happen is that that function is going to return, we already know this, and it's going to return what? A times 2. So a times 2. So that's our function, a times 2. So that function is going to return that. And so now we can use this function with map, right? And then we pass, and then we say model. I don't know who is the host of this meeting. Oh. Okay, let's continue. So if I pass mol, I can now pass my list, which is L1, and then I run this, and sorry, if I print this as a list, right? Let me just return this as a list. It returns this number multiplied by each number in this list multiplied by 2, right? So 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 4 is 8, and that's why we have all of this. Now, but normally in real life, you will not have to go and define a mod function. You just want to use lambda. And so how do you do that? You do map, right? And then instead of writing, you just have to do lambda, right? Lambda takes a, and then it returns what? Your expression is a times 2, and then you do comma, and then you pass your L1. And if you print this as a list, right, you'll be able to get the same result that we got. So in most cases, this might even be more complex, and you don't have to explicitly define your own function to use. So you see that the map function takes a function as an input. There are many other functions that takes a function as an input. I don't know. Is the sorted function? I don't think so. Sorted. Let me see. There's something about sorted that works like that. I'm just forgetting where I missed that. It takes an iterable name key equals reverse equals true. I think this key takes a function, right? I think that was what I was trying to communicate here. Key equals to lambda, yes. Key takes a function, yeah. And then reverse is equals to true. That's correct. Okay. Any other questions? Any wahala? Now you know how you can use a lambda function within another function. That's what I was trying to do. Lambda with, oh, I even had all of that here. Lambda with filter, lambda with map. I did not even notice that I had put tax print out the even numbers from the list of numbers, double even numbers with them. Yeah, so please pick this up and try this in your sessions. I'm going to load an assignment today, and then I give you the link, and then I'll tell you all to wait. Please let me show you something. If you don't have access to this, can you please all send your emails? I don't know if I did that. I will be needing all your emails. Please, Gmails. Don't send me your mail. Send me your mail. I cannot be able to use it. I want to look for some. I'm looking for. There's a folder called Solovistic. I'm looking for it. Okay, this is it. Machine learning. Oh, I want to check if I have folder for champion batch. I want to be sure I need. It's really slow. Please just share your emails with me in our class chat, and then I would share an assignment with you that you are expected to do before our class tomorrow. Is that clear?
Okay. Yes.
Share your emails in class. Share your email to me in the class group so that I'll create a folder, upload assignments there and share with all of you. You are expected to solve that assignment before our next class, and then we can look at it together during our next class. Is that clear?
Okay.
In class, not here,
Yes,
please. In class,
sir.
once I end this Zoom, I'll not have access. Yeah, so please share it in class. If you share it here, I'll not have access to it after I end the meeting. So, okay. See you all tomorrow. We'll talk about file handling tomorrow. Bye-bye.